You've probably heard someone say that nuts are great for the heart, the brain, and even for weight loss. But what if I told you that not all of them are harmless, and that some, in fact, can accelerate your body's aging, silently raise your blood pressure, and even cause serious damage to your memory? And worse, some of these nuts are on your pantry shelves right now, being consumed every day, believed to be allies of health. The truth is, as we age, the body changes. Metabolism slows down, the digestive system becomes more sensitive, and the effects of a poor diet become even more dangerous. And nuts, despite seeming healthy, can be major villains or allies, depending on which ones you choose. Today, you'll discover which nuts truly help those over 60 and which ones should be avoided at all costs. Over years of nutritional research focused on the elderly, scientists have uncovered alarming truths about certain types of nuts. In many cases, what determines whether a nut is beneficial or harmful to an older person's health is how it reacts in an aging body, especially in the liver, kidneys, blood vessels, and brain. The same nutrients that can protect a young adult, for example, can overload an elderly system. That's why, in this video, we'll reveal which nuts genuinely combat aging, promote heart health, and prevent cognitive decline. We'll also expose those that are secretly harming millions of seniors, even when consumed in small amounts. But before we continue, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel to receive more revealing content about nutrition, health, and longevity. Here, our commitment is to the truth, even if it goes against common sense. And while you're at it, leave a comment below. Which nut do you consume the most in your daily life? Is it an ally or a silent enemy? Let's get straight to the point. We start with the champion of longevity, the hazelnut. This little gem has been underestimated by many, but offers one of the richest nutritional profiles for those in their golden years. Rich in vitamin E, manganese, copper, and monounsaturated fatty acids, hazelnuts aid in cell regeneration and protect against free radicals, the main culprits of premature aging. Recent studies have shown that seniors who regularly consume hazelnuts have a lower incidence of neurodegenerative diseases. Additionally, the presence of oleic acid in hazelnuts helps balance cholesterol levels, protecting the heart from heart attacks and ischemia. To top it off, hazelnuts contain phenolic compounds that help modulate inflammation, something essential for those already dealing with arthritis and joint pain. But beware, industrialized hazelnuts, with added sugar, salt, or sweet coatings, lose practically all these benefits and even contribute to blood sugar spikes, obesity, and hypertension. So, if you're going to consume hazelnuts, make sure they're raw or lightly roasted without additives. A 20-gram portion per day is more than enough to reap all their benefits. Now, a revelation that might catch many by surprise: pecans. Although less popular than traditional walnuts, pecans offer extraordinary benefits for the cardiovascular system. They are packed with natural antioxidants, such as ellagic acid and vitamin E, which combat chronic inflammation, a silent condition that increases the risk of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and Alzheimer's. Additionally, they contain a high amount of phytosterols, which help reduce cholesterol absorption in the intestines. For seniors with high cholesterol, pecans can be an extremely effective natural tool. However, the key is quantity. Because they are very calorie-dense, excessive consumption can contribute to weight gain, which directly affects joint health and mobility in seniors. The ideal is to consume 4 to 6 pecans per day, always in their natural form, avoiding caramelized versions or those with added vegetable fat. Now, brace yourself for the warning. Among all nuts, there's one that causes more harm than good, and it's consumed by millions of Brazilians daily, including by diabetics and hypertensives. We're talking about industrialized cashew nuts. Yes, the same ones that seem harmless, lightly salted, and so common at family gatherings and year-end parties. The problem is that when subjected to frying processes in low-quality oils and excessive salt addition, cashew nuts turn into an inflammatory bomb. The excess sodium contributes to elevated blood pressure, and the trans fatty acids formed during frying increase the risk of arterial plaque buildup, which can lead to heart attacks and strokes. Moreover, cashew nuts contain oxalates, compounds that can impair calcium absorption and overload the kidneys, especially in people with a history of kidney stones or mild renal insufficiency. For those over 60, this impact can be even more severe. The recommendation is, if you enjoy cashew nuts, consume them in raw or baked versions without salt and in small amounts, no more than 4 units per day. And since we're talking about kidney health, it's worth highlighting the importance of Brazil nuts, also known as para nuts. They are a primary source of selenium, a mineral essential for thyroid function and strengthening the immune system. Just 1 nut per day provides 100% of the daily selenium requirement. But be careful, excess can cause toxicity, with symptoms like hair loss, brittle nails, fatigue, and even neurological problems. So, the recommendation is clear. Limit yourself to 1 Brazil nut per day, preferably with the shell and stored in the refrigerator to prevent oxidation of its natural oils. Another common mistake among seniors is believing that all nuts are good for the gut. This is true for some, like almonds, but not for all. Almonds are rich in soluble and insoluble fibers, which aid intestinal transit and gut microbiota health. They also contain vitamin E, calcium, and magnesium, forming a powerful trio against osteoporosis and bone fragility. For those struggling with constipation or looking to strengthen their bones, almonds are an excellent choice, as long as they're consumed without salt and in moderate portions, between 15 and 20 units per day. But remember, seniors with chewing or swallowing difficulties should avoid whole almonds. The ideal is to grind them or consume them as 100% natural almond butter without added sugars or hydrogenated fats. This minimizes the risk of choking while still allowing the nutrients to be absorbed. Lastly, a little-known curiosity, macadamia nuts, famous for their buttery flavor and crunchy texture, can be a dangerous option for people with liver issues. They are extremely rich in saturated fats, and although many of these are considered healthy, excessive consumption can overload the liver in seniors, especially when combined with medications metabolized by this organ. Additionally, their high caloric density, nearly 200 calories per 30-gram portion, can easily lead to unwanted weight gain in a phase of life when metabolism is slower. If you still want to consume macadamias, the ideal is to limit yourself to 4 or 5 units per day and always opt for raw or lightly roasted versions, without added salt or sugar. Despite all this information, there's a common mistake many seniors continue to make: consuming large quantities of mixed nuts, as if they were a fruit salad. This practice can be more dangerous than it seems. Even the good nuts, like almonds, walnuts, and pistachios, when combined carelessly and eaten in excess, can overload the digestive and liver systems. This is because each nut has its own lipid profile and caloric density. When mixed, they add up calories, fats, and bioactive compounds that don't always complement each other, and may even compete for absorption in the intestines. A classic example is combining Brazil nuts with walnuts and almonds. The excess selenium from Brazil nuts can interfere with the absorption of calcium and magnesium present in the other two. Additionally, the mixture can elevate fat intake to problematic levels, especially in seniors who already have fatty liver or cardiovascular diseases. So the tip is to always plan nut consumption like a natural remedy, in small doses, at the right time, with a specific purpose. And if there's one nut that represents a true nutritional paradox, it's the peanut. Although technically a legume, it's still mistakenly classified as a nut in most diets. Peanuts are cheap, accessible, and very popular. However, they carry a silent risk: the presence of aflatoxins, toxic substances produced by fungi that can easily proliferate in poorly stored grains. These toxins are hepatotoxic and are associated with liver cancer cases, especially in populations with diets low in antioxidants, as is the case for many seniors. The immune system weakens with age. The ability to neutralize toxins also diminishes. So, while a young person may tolerate small amounts of aflatoxins without major consequences, a senior can accumulate these toxic compounds over time and suffer severe consequences. And that's not even counting the amount of hydrogenated vegetable oils, sugars, and refined salt added to products like peanut brittle, peanut butter, and flavored roasted peanuts. These ingredients inflame the body, alter the lipid profile, and harm metabolic health. The recommendation is clear. If you're going to consume peanuts, choose a reliable source, without additives, and in minimal amounts, no more than 10 units per day. Another type that deserves extra attention is the baru nut, native to the Brazilian Cerrado and rich in zinc, phosphorus, and antioxidants. It has become a darling among those who follow a more natural diet. And indeed, when properly prepared, the baru nut can aid muscle health, prevent osteoporosis, and improve immunity. However, because it's rich in phytic acid, excessive consumption can hinder the absorption of essential minerals like iron and zinc, which are especially necessary after 60. For seniors with anemia or osteopenia, this anti-nutritional effect can be concerning. The tip is to always consume baru nuts roasted, as roasting reduces phytic acid levels, making them safer for regular consumption. Now, speaking of an option that may seem harmless, but requires absolute moderation, pine nuts. Although not technically nuts, many consider them as such and include them in diets frequently, especially during festive seasons. Pine nuts have a high starch content and a relatively high glycemic load, which can pose a challenge for glucose control in seniors with type 2 diabetes. Additionally, pine nuts contain pinolenic acid, which, while beneficial for appetite and cholesterol, can cause a curious and undesirable side effect: pine mouth, a taste alteration that causes a persistent metallic flavor for several days. This disorder, though rare, can significantly affect the appetite and nutrition of already frail seniors. So, what would be the ideal criteria for choosing a good nut after 60? Here's a practical summary. Soft texture and easy to chew. For those with dental prosthetics or swallowing difficulties, harder nuts pose a real choking risk. Low sodium and additive content. Raw or lightly roasted nuts without salt are always better than industrialized ones with artificial flavors and seasonings. Balanced lipid profile. Prefer nuts rich in mono and polyunsaturated fats, such as almonds, pistachios, and walnuts. Fiber content. Opt for nuts with soluble and insoluble fibers to aid digestion, cholesterol control, and gut health. Low caloric density per unit. The more calorie-dense a nut is, the smaller the portion should be. Additionally, it's crucial to observe individual reactions. Often the body gives subtle signs that something is wrong. Increased gas, slow digestion, energy drops after consumption, or even sleep changes. These can all indicate that a certain food, even if considered healthy, isn't being well tolerated. Nutrition after 60 should be personalized, tailored to the body's specific needs and each individual's clinical conditions. It's also worth remembering that nuts, despite being nutritious, do not replace full meals. They should be seen as functional complements, snacks between meals, sources of good fats, antioxidants, and fibers. The ideal is to combine them with fruits, natural yogurts, or small portions of whole grains. This food synergy enhances benefits and reduces the negative impacts of consuming fats in isolation. Many seniors feel lost with so many options. That's why professional guidance is always the best path. Nutritionists specialized in geriatrics can create a dietary plan that considers all factors: medication interactions, chronic diseases, food intolerances, and even cultural preferences. What works for a hypertensive senior may not work for one with Alzheimer's. What helps someone with osteoporosis may harm another with kidney stones. And finally, it's never too much to emphasize. The way you store your nuts also directly impacts your health. Leaving nuts exposed to heat, light, and air can accelerate oil oxidation, making them rancid and loaded with free radicals. This is especially true for Brazil nuts, macadamias, and walnuts. The ideal is to store them in dark, well-sealed glass jars in the refrigerator, especially in hot and humid regions. This simple habit can preserve nutrient quality and prevent contaminations that put gut and liver health at risk. With this new perspective on nuts, it's possible to make conscious choices that truly protect health, increase longevity, and improve quality of life in old age. Small changes, like swapping salted peanuts for natural pistachios or limiting Brazil nuts to one per day, make a huge difference over the years. Now that you know the best and worst nuts for health after 60, it's time to act wisely. Make conscious choices, protect your heart, your brain, and your longevity. Small daily decisions have the power to transform your health in the long run. And if this video helped you, share it with someone you love. It might be exactly the wake-up call they need. Like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell to not miss the next videos. See you soon with more truths about nutrition and health to live well and with quality.